Good evening, good evening. Welcome to Momentum Chat. I am your host, Majida Bay, and I'll be joined shortly by my co-host. But today's topic is to think or not to think, right? It's thinking for everyone. And this topic actually came to me. I'm gonna share a quote with you when we get started. So if you checking this out, you can like it, share with a friend, and definitely communicate with us in the comments to let us know what you're thinking about the topic. So we'll be getting started in just a couple seconds. Good evening, good evening. Welcome to Momentum Chat. I am Majida Bay, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. John Epting,
Good
senior
evening.
financial professional, leadership development expert. Can I call you an expert? I think you're an expert. I think tonight's topic is actually going to speak to that actually a little bit as well. But John's a father, a husband, a man of God.
That
Definitely,
part.
definitely somebody I've had the opportunity to work with, be mentored by, and truly appreciate, the impact that he's had on my life
Thank
and
you.
the value that he's adding to our conversation every single week. We've been doing this now since September, right? So,
Really?
uh, really, yeah, we started for Life Insurance Awareness Month and then it just kept going ever since. So
Wow. I didn't. I'm
yeah,
having fun. I must be having fun because I didn't even realize we've been doing it that long. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. It's
Cool.
like, all right, what else can we talk about? But there's plenty of conversations to be had, and I
Yeah.
think the last few weeks we've had some conversations, and they might have been a bit controversial or the topics that are taboo in our society. But I think we need to definitely have more of those conversations to impact and change and help other people change their lives. So thank you for
Mhm.
being here tonight, John. Appreciate you being
Thank
here.
you. I appreciate being here with you.
Good deal. Good deal. So tonight's topic, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the email I sent, right? The topic is thinking isn't for everyone, right?
Oh my God. Can
Right? So
do I
I'm gonna
have a
share with
minute to
you.
look at the email now? Oh my God.
No. I just gave you the topic. I didn't give you any bullet points. It was just the topic. So this topic actually came to me. I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago, maybe
Okay.
last week, and this quote came up. This is a quote by Thomas Edison, or it's credited to him. And this is what it says. It says 5% of the people think, 10% of the people think they think, and the other 85% would rather die than think. So the wheel started turning, John, right? Because I heard this and I was like, wow, right? I had to think about that. 85% of people would rather die than think. And I remember you saying something on here before to the effect that we were not meant to be disciplined, we were meant to be habitual,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And habits don't necessarily require you to think.
True.
So
True.
in that instance, right, I thought about it like, and the more I thought about the topic, I'm like, I wouldn't rather die than think, but
Right.
I'm probably not one of those people who think for the sake of thinking. Right? Who just think
Mhm.
about things or, when I think
Well,
about people that change the world, they're thinkers. Right? The people
yes.
who read and do those type
Yeah.
of things. So
Yeah.
share with us, right? Like just, hearing that quote, what comes to mind for you, John?
First, the quote was shocking because I don't think I've ever read it before. I don't think I've been exposed to that quote before. But where I am in my life today, I could agree with it. After being in leadership, entrepreneurship for over 30 years, in the financial business for over 20, and being a husband and a father and man of God, as you said, in discipling people and coaching people, and I guess mentoring people too. I would agree with the quote. The quote is very accurate.
Yeah.
If you just think about the number of people who read,
Mm,
see, reading causes thinking. And if on the vast scale of our world, of course, in our circles, everybody's a reader. But outside of our circles, I'm noticing reading's not something, because I can just have a conversation and say, hey, what book are you reading right now? Hey, when was the last book you read? And
Mm-hmm.
that's so foreign. That's a foreign question to most people.
Yeah.
Or what was the last podcast you listened to, or any of those types of things? It's so foreign. It makes me believe that quote, that 85% rather die than think. Right? It's almost like to the point where they say that there was the two biggest fears was public speaking and death.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Death was number two. Right? Well, yeah, thinking was probably in there too. A lot of people just don't think, don't want to think. 'Cause here's the thing, and this is just what I believe. I believe that 85%, the reason they don't want to think is because they don't want to change their perspective.
Mm.
I was listening to a podcast today. Ed Milet launched his newest one, and it's a young guy who's former Navy SEAL. He's actually trained in Navy SEALs, and it came up again, that thing I talk about, that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself and the quality of the questions you ask other people. And the young man was talking about how questions are so important, and even if you get stuck on a question, the next question you should ask yourself is, what's a good question to this question,
Mm.
or what question should I be asking myself now?
Yeah.
Right? That's so important, but that requires some thinking. And sometimes we get stuck in these ideas that aren't even true. Just because you feel something doesn't necessarily mean it's true.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's fact. Doesn't mean it's real, right? And in asking those questions, right, and listening to that podcast today, I started asking myself questions. I started asking myself such as, right? What if what you think about the tax code, and this was just a question to myself. What
Mm-hmm.
if I think what I think I know about the tax code is now false? What do you do with that?
Mm-hmm.
What if what you believe about Biden or Trump or Kamala Harris or whoever, right? What if whatever you believe about them is false? What if that's not true? Whatever thought just came across your mind as soon as I said their name, right? That's called a brand. As soon as someone says your name, says their name, that person's name, and whatever first thought comes to your mind, that's their brand,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, guess what? It takes some thinking just to know that. And some people don't want to think. Hey, I'm guilty of it. There's times of my life, of course, I'm a thinker. I think too much though, right? Being a Scorpio and being an introvert, I think way too much. It's like bad for me, right?
Mm.
But right, there are times, my wife will tell you, where I come home and I need to kind of detox, if you will. So sometimes I'll sit in my car for a little bit. We have a thing in our family where we can tell where we each are, right? So we have like a GPS system on each of us, right? So in case something stupid happens, right? Somebody gets kidnapped, something happens, we can find them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so and of course I know you can do that with your iPhone or whatever. I'm a little bit more in depth in that. So, and don't ask me where it's implanted, but right. So we know this stuff, right? And my wife can say all the time that I'll come home. She knows I'm home, right? Because she has an alert on her phone. She has the notification on her phone that I'm home, right? But it still be 10 minutes before she hear the garage door go up.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll hear the garage door go up and still be 10, 15 minutes before I come through the door. That's me coming down, right? That's me not thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I did my debrief on my way home, right? But now I'm just sitting in the car, not thinking. The radio may not be on. It may not be a song on. It may not be. There's a show from the '90s, I believe, called Seinfeld. right? You know this. You've known me a long
Yeah.
time, so and it's a show about nothing,
Yeah.
right? And it's beautiful because it requires no thinking at all, and you still get a laugh, right? And I believe laughter is super important. I
Yeah.
believe laughter is so important. It's just, oh my gosh, I love to laugh. I love to get my stomach in a knot and just, right. But it takes thinking to do that stuff, and it's just a lot of people in our world who are not thinking. But but hey, that's been probably since the beginning of time,
Hmm.
right? Thomas Edison just probably was sitting around thinking, and he figured that out. But that's been since the beginning of time. I mean, scripture proves it. You could see in scripture that that's true. There's a lot of people just didn't want to do any thinking, and that's how masses of people can end up in slavery, can end up in so many different things, can end up in genocide.
Mm.
That's a bunch of people not thinking,
Yeah.
right? End up as people love to say in this day and age, on the wrong side of history, right? That's a lot of people not thinking. Here's the other one, and this is just my own personal life. I don't know why, but since I was a child, I've always had it in me, right? And now I know why, but I've always had it in me that if the majority of my friends, family, people I hang with are all saying we should go this way, it's just something in me that has to go over here and check out this.
Yeah.
If all of us figured out that this is the right way, I gotta go over here and at least look. Because all of us can't be this smart.
Yeah. And like I said, as I thought about this quote, I think about even in my life, one of the questions that I asked in the description for this chat was that when was the when did you stop thinking, or better yet, when did you start thinking? And
Mm-hmm,
I started thinking in my early 20s. Up until that point, I was pretty much on autopilot. Everything that I did was what I was expected to do. What it was what I was
mm-hmm,
supposed to do. Right? I
mm-hmm,
didn't think about getting into trouble. I didn't think of right. I did what right. And so I didn't really have a reason to question what I was being told to do. And it
mm-hmm,
wasn't until I got on my own, had to start making certain decisions for myself,
mm-hmm,
that I
mm-hmm.
was like, wait a minute, what is it that I want to do? What is it that, like, what is it that I want? I've done all this stuff that other people wanted me to do or expected me to do. And now, what do I want to do? And that's actually when I applied to become a basketball coach, and like immediately fell in love with it. I was just, man, I should have been doing this a long time
You
ago.
did. I remember
But
you were in love with being a coach. Like it was
it
like
was wonderful.
breathing to you.
Oh my gosh. I didn't mind staying up late, getting up early. I got excited about putting strategies together. And I know you've mentioned that even before on this chat. Even what we do in finance, right? It requires thinking, right? The strategy. And we sit in front of people so often. And it's crazy because I wanted to have this conversation because as I'm listening to other individuals or people having different conversations, money comes up over time and time again through these different conversations. Like it comes
Absolutely.
up, or they bring in a special guest who talks about money, and I'm like, man, like this dude, I'm not gonna say he don't know more than I do, right? He might know more than I do in terms of finance, but he knows the same basic principles that I teach to people, that I share with people, right? He talks about having 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund. He talks about investing in stocks or things like that where you spend money, investing in the things where you spend money. And it's things that I've
Amen.
heard before and heard over and over again. But for the masses of people, it's unfamiliar to them. It's unknown. And so I wanted to address, of course, because we deal with money and finance, I wanted to talk about, when we're talking about finance or sharing financial concepts or money concepts with people, why do you think it is that people question these timeless principles about money, right? Just because they're unfamiliar with them, but then they question people who we've talked about before who are knowledgeable, who have experience in this industry. They question it. Why do you think that is as it relates to this topic about thinking?
You know what? That can fall into any one of those ones you're talking about right here. The 5%, that 10%, and that 85%. It could fall into any one of those. But let me tell you, one of the dangerous ones, I believe, is that 10%. The people who
Mm,
think they think.
yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. We live in a world which is so crazy, and it just shows you. See, God said we all were born into sin, so we're sinful beings, right? Most people are, oh, we're all mostly good. No, if you just look at a baby. A baby knows how to manipulate you,
Yes. Yes, they
right?
do.
That's sin in their fiber, right? And they have to be delivered from it, but that's sin in their fiber. Nobody taught them that. They came out knowing that if I scream this way, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get
Mhm.
what I want, and then they know how to. After a while, they learn you, and they're like, I know how to get her, right? So from a baby, we're sinful, right?
Mm.
Okay. So think about that for a second. Now, right? You take people. We're so arrogant. This is how arrogant we are. Because we've never heard of it, we think it's some type of scam. It can't be true. Too good to be true. When when if we were humble, we would just say, I never heard of it because there's such a vast amount of knowledge in the universe. And
Yeah.
that's why I never heard of it. But no, it must be something illegal or shady because I never heard of it. And that's why people, because of their sin nature, that's why they question what we, timeless principles. These principles were been written about long before you and I. Some of these
Hmm.
principles, first of all, most of the principles are biblical, right? But I'll just put it in modern terms. Some of these stuff is written in books that date back to the 1700s. Think about that for a moment,
Hmm.
right? There was no stock market, right? Yet the principles are still valid, right? But the reason people struggle is because they're so more focused on their sin nature. I know you were looking for a different answer, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the reason. People are, oh, I never heard of it. Why would you heard of it? Do you work in the financial industry? I remember having a 24-year-old guy. He said, "Why I never heard of this?" I said, "Because you're 24 and in the Navy. That's why you never heard of it."
They
Like,
don't
can
teach
you
about.
tell me when you would have heard of it? Like, when was this information supposed to float by you?
And I
Right?
think that speaks to this topic, right? That because things don't come to us, and we don't
Ah,
have to, like, we don't think about it, right? And we don't think
ah,
about it, so we settle and we accept whatever comes to us, whatever
wow,
circumstances we are around us. If I grew up in a certain environment or a neighborhood, and I grew up in a
wow,
certain family, and I see things a certain way, that's the way things are. So I don't have to think about how things are different. I know when I came out of college, or if you think about even going to college, being exposed to people from all over the world, different countries, different nationalities, different faiths, right? You get exposed to that. But if you grew up in an environment where everybody's Christian or everybody's Muslim, then
mm-hmm.
you're vaguely aware of, or that other things
Very true,
exist, but you haven't studied them. You haven't sought out that knowledge because
very true.
you hold on to what it is that you believe. um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, like, I think about what I think about, right? Obviously, this is why I come up with topics like this. But this conversation I think is important because I don't think most people are even aware that they're not thinking. If
No,
we took time
they're not.
and actually sat down and thought about how we got to where we are in our lives right now,
Mm-hmm.
like, how did you
Mm-hmm.
get there? What
Mm-hmm.
decisions did you make? I think most people would say, well, my parents told me to go to college, and you got to get a good job, and just keep your head down, right? There's this formula, or there's this playbook that you're supposed to follow, this unwritten rule or plan for your life that you're supposed to follow, that you never really thought about. And so
Wow.
it takes somebody's like, hey, like, wake up. Uh, why do you think, right? Why do you think you are where you are?
Yeah.
how
Why do you
how
think
did
the
you?
way you think? Why do you think the way you think?
That's
Yeah.
good.
You know
Good.
what? You said you start thinking early 20s.
Early 20s, consciously, right? Like, I might
Now,
have thought about
now,
something,
and I know I probably overstated earlier that I always thought if all of us are going this direction, I should go look over here. Now I realize from you saying that it was probably for me mid teens,
Hmm.
mid teens. And the reason I can say that is there were some major shifts in my life. We moved from the south side of Chicago to North Platte, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Culture shock, right? And I'm going to say one of my things of thinking, right? One of my things of thinking is my experience when I got to North Platte, Nebraska was totally opposite of what everybody told me it was going to be.
Mm.
We go from the inner city black kid. I'm one of 3 black kids in the whole high school. Totally opposite of what everybody told me. I don't even know why I listened to them because they had never even been. But when you're a child, right,
You don't know.
you kind of take in stuff, right? And I vividly remember saying to myself, this is nothing like my aunts and uncles said it was going to be, right? And I think officially from that moment on, I didn't listen to them. Some of them might even watch this, and yeah, if you didn't know, I don't really listen to you. I did, right? And it's literally true because some people I noticed, especially in 2021, most kids, especially 30 and under, right? They're living with the PTSD of their parents. It isn't their PTSD. It isn't what happened
Mhm.
to them. It's what their
Yeah.
parents told them may happen, might happen to them. And that's not. Can
That's
you
being
imagine if my
projected
mom did that to
onto them.
me? My mom grew up in where's she from? Mount Pleasant, Tennessee, right?
Hmm.
She actually remembers segregated water fountains, and can you imagine if she had put that on me?
Yeah.
But it's people walking around who their parents did put it on them. Or you know what? Let me take that back. No, she didn't put it on me. My mom and dad didn't do that. But I'm gonna act like they did, right? Right? Just because they put it on you don't mean you have to live it.
Yep.
You can break free from that. You can reprogram yourself, right? If some people are still living in their parents' world of economics, right? That they're gonna
Mm.
go to what you just say, go to school, get a good education, keep your head down. Where did that one come from? Keep your
Uh,
head down?
well,
Why would you tell a child that?
because John, and this is something that I thought about as well, right? My parents, right, grew up in an era where they had to deal with segregation, right?
Yeah.
They had to deal with civil rights, right? Like that, all of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so their advice was based on their reality, right? The way they raised us was just like, hey, you gotta protect yourself, you gotta, keep your
You with
head
me?
down, keep your right. So like, but understanding as you get older and you're able to think for yourself, something my father freed me from long time ago. He was just like, think for yourself, right? You can't depend on me, you can't depend on your mother. You gotta be able to think for yourself. And so that and something that I learned growing up too was like to know you must be what you know, right? You can
Whoa.
listen to the right.
Whoa.
Let that settle for a minute, right? To know you must be what you know, right? And so I was
Wow.
taught a lot of things growing up, but I could listen to the pastor or the teacher or the parent, right? I could listen to them, but I had to at some point choose and decide for myself that that information was accurate by
Exactly.
through experience. And I'm one of those hard headed people. Some things I had to experience. No matter what you tell me, it wasn't going to prevent me from trying it out because I had to
Right.
know for myself. Right. That's the
Yeah.
only way I was going to know. I had to go
Which
through
is
it, and I had no
which is
problem going
okay.
through it.
Yeah, because some people will try to teach you and say, no, that's not going to work. No, it didn't work for you.
Yeah.
Maybe because of your work ethic, maybe because your intention, maybe because you don't have the drive I have, or whatever the case may be. But don't put your failures on me,
Yeah.
right? Same thing with my daughter. I try my best not to put our failures on her. Go out there, try it, Jesse. Let's see. I don't know, right? I love saying I don't know to Jesse. I don't know. That's a good question. Man, we should. I love saying, I don't know why I do, but it's just, it frees me from having to know everything, but it also liberates her. Hey, let's go give it a shot. And the cool
Well,
thing
it
is, she knows.
empowers her too to go
Yes,
find the answer. Yep.
let's go.
Yeah.
Right?
I do that with
And
my
she knows
daughter
mommy and daddy
sometimes.
still got her back though. If you
Yeah.
fall, mommy and daddy still here to pick you up. We're gonna dust you off, put a band-aid on, and we're gonna probably go do it again. Because we just don't quit. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
don't, quitting is a habit,
Yeah.
right? And it's one of the things my pastor has always said about me, that he said, man, he said, I've never met anybody with your perseverance. I just don't, I, right? And I think it's a part of me. The reason I don't quit is because I know in my heart of hearts, right, by me asking myself very tough questions, I haven't given it my all.
Yeah.
So if I quit before I give it my all,
You'll never know.
I'll never know. And I don't like that feeling. I don't even like the
Mhm.
idea of that. I don't like when I left my first marriage, I knew I gave it my all. So I was okay
Yeah.
with leaving. Right. When I left the Navy, I left at the top of my game. So I was
Yeah.
okay with leaving. Right. But I couldn't go and oh man, I didn't study hard and I can't do that. Nope. I gotta give it my all. And that's part of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed, and you
Evaluating.
said it
Yeah.
earlier, right? God, I believe this. God didn't create us to be disciplined, he created us to be habitual. The purpose of discipline is to create a habit. And what does that do? It removes your mind from having to think about those things.
Mm-hmm.
Those things. The things
Yeah.
you put in autopilot, okay, you don't have to think about that. You know what that
Very
does? It frees you up to be
free.
creative now.
Mm-hmm.
It
I
frees you
believe
up to find new solutions to problems that people are going through, to help people, to put yourself on the back burner. I still wear this thing, right? I am second.
that.
I'm
Mm.
not first. I'm second, right? God's first, right? I don't even want to be second. I want to help some people. I want to get some other people to higher plateaus and lift mankind to a greater place. That's what I want to do, right? So I
Yeah.
wear this to remind me, John, before you get too arrogant, calm down. You're not that important, right? And partly my wife taught me that too, right? My wife has a name that's very unique. It's Yabby, but it's spelled with L's, right? LLA. There's right. The only Y on it is on the end, right?
Mhm.
So people call her Lullaby, and they jack her name up, right? My last name is Epting. Nobody screws up John, but my last name is Epting, right? If you don't see it, right, and even if you do see it, people say Epstein, Epling, Epping, just all kinds of. I used to get upset with people who mess up my name, and then I
Mm.
noticed my wife never corrected people. They call her Gabby, Abby, Labby. She never corrected them. And it just made me realize she's serious about life, but she don't take herself too serious.
Mm.
And I was like, dang, John. Now, I consider a name an important thing,
Me
right?
too.
But when it comes to, right, you ain't got to, cause war over it. Because somebody don't have hip on phonics because their mama didn't sit down with them after school. And I'm not going to cause a war, right? And my wife did that for me. It's like,
Mm.
oh, this is, you know what? She's right, right? And I remember, hey, somebody super close to us now, right? First 2 years, the husband of this couple, super close to us. Like, I can't even get in descriptive of how close this couple is. To. First 2 years, the husband was calling my wife Gabby. And then one day his wife said, you know her name is Yabby, right? He used the next year after that to apologize. Every time he saw us, he apologized. He never messed it up again, though.
Mm-hmm.
Never messed it up again. Right. And now we've been friends 16 years, 15, 16 years, something like that. Actually 17, going into 17 years. Right.
That's cool. And
Yeah.
this idea of thinking, there have definitely been times in my life where I have not wanted to think. kind of what you said earlier, this idea of being habitual. I'm like, all right, I have to make decisions in every area of my life. When it came to like relationships, like romantic relationships, I didn't want to think, right? I just wanted to be able to give up control, follow their lead. And then I had to start thinking because they weren't leading me in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah.
So but I was willing to give it a go, but understanding that about myself, like, all right, there's some things I don't want to have to make decisions about everything. And so positioning myself or putting myself in a position to where uh I'm intentional about what I think about, right? When it comes to my values, right? When it comes to my character, right? Like those are certain things that I'm not going to compromise. However,
Mm-hmm.
let's say in
Mm-hmm.
my job, if I can delegate certain responsibilities, hey, I don't, you think about that. You come up
That
with the
makes sense.
answer
Yeah,
instead of
that
just
makes
giving people answers. But I think I honestly don't believe that everybody is meant to be the thinkers, quote unquote, right? The thinkers in the world. I think some people are meant to seek out the thinkers, get the answer, and then apply the information, right?
okay.
I don't think I need to know everything. I just need to know what I know who knows what I don't know. That's all I need
That's
to
all
know.
I need to know.
Right. So if I can go to someone to find the answer, they have credibility, there's trust, right? I don't need to think about that because I'm going to a trusted source. And that frees me up to be creative in the area that I have strengths in, right? If I work
Yes.
in finance, I don't think I need to be a lawyer, right? I
Right.
just find a lawyer.
Absolutely not. Nope. I hire good lawyers.
Absolutely. So those are the things that, a lot of times we think we got to know everything. There's no way you can.
Yeah, not
And
even. I'm not even
our
interested in knowing everything.
I really believe our true wealth is in our relationships. It's the people. Because when I
Yes.
think about like life in general, right? We come
Yes.
into this life, we're given to a certain family, right? I'm given to my parents. They raise me. I grow up. I have my own children. I raise them, right? We spend hopefully most of our lives with these people, but we're not necessarily intentional about developing those relationships and like really cultivating and nurturing the relationships with the people that we've been blessed to have in our
Yeah.
lives.
Mm-hmm.
We're so focused on doing the stuff, right? I gotta go to work. I gotta pay the bills. I got right, and you neglect the things that I believe are most important. And so those are the things that I want to think about. I shared or reached out to my family about a month ago, and I do this every so often, and sometimes they indulge me, but now it seems that everybody, kind of. But yeah, I reached out to them. I was just like, "Hey, when will be a good time to have a family meeting, like a regular family meeting, right, via Zoom?" I know you shared that you do that with your family as well. But I'm very much connected to my family because I'm like, y'all the people that like God put me in this family for a
Mm-hmm.
reason, right? That's what I believe. He put me in this family for a reason. So how am I supposed to help this family, and how is this family supposed to help other families? And I think about
Absolutely.
what our family has been able to do in the area of finance, right? Like it took me several years ago getting the information from you, learning from you, applying it. And now, right, my mother is very intentional about the things that she's doing with her money. And my siblings, come to me and they ask certain questions, right? Because of the relationship, they
Yeah.
trust me to be able to give them the right advice, to be able
I
to help
just
them.
I just had a review with one of your brothers on Zoom. I just did a
Oh,
review with one.
good stuff.
Yeah. But see,
But
the cool thing is you caught as a very young lady, is the most, and I've said this I don't know how many times. The most valuable thing in my life is my relationship with God and my relationship with other people. Right.
mm-hmm,
And if you're birthed into a family, this is what I'm noticing in our day and age now. Most people, if they have friction with their family, they're running from them. They're trying to segregate from them. And here's the facts. God gave you family to prepare you for your enemies.
mm,
If you can't deal with your family, anybody out here will eat you for lunch.
yeah.
Seriously, I mean, think about it. That's the one people who love you and you love. And you can't deal with them. Oh, you in trouble out here.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't like me saying that God gave you family to prepare you for your enemies. Who else can tick you? Nobody can tick me off like my wife can. Nobody. Yeah, like none of y'all can even get in the arena. My wife. But here's the other thing. The reason that is in our families is because we have a higher expectation for our family.
Mm.
When really we need to remove that expectation. That's not fair.
Yeah.
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but
Yeah.
you we have all these expectations on certain type of people. Let me give you an example. As a Christian man, people automatically expect me to treat them a certain way. And if I
Mm.
fall short of any of their expectations, now mind you, they haven't even talked to me about what the expectation is. But if I fall short of it,
Yeah.
I'm dismissed. We live in a counsel culture anyway. People are looking for a reason to counsel you, right? And that's just how it is. But why? Because I'm supposed to be a man of God. When really all a man of God is admitting I'm a jacked up and I needed a savior to help me.
Mm.
That's all being a man of God is. All being a Christian is we know we jacked up and I need help.
Mm.
Not I'm
And
perfect. I got this thing. I know what I'm doing. Not even close. I'm not even close to what I'm doing.
that's interesting, John. I've never heard it described that way. I think that would be refreshing to some people in our audience based on your definition and how you define what, right? Because I know the perception, right? I grew up as a Muslim. And so I often was met with this holier than thou, right? Because our society in general
Yeah.
overall is Christian. So I was
And
met
I
with this.
apologize on behalf of our. I apologize for them idiots who weren't thinking.
um and so I'm not gonna say it didn't really bother me, right? Like my parents gave me a certain sense of self, right? And yeah, I didn't feel any type of way about my faith because of other people's faith, but it made me question, like, all right, like why do you feel the need to like demean or put someone else's belief down to for yours to be greater, right? Like why is there this why and this is even for myself, right? Like, because it's not just in Christianity, in all faiths, right? There's this like
All faith.
very,
There's
you know, dogmatic.
Catholics believe that's all and we could. This will be a 3 hour deal if we get to talking about all of them, right? But the reason people are like that, right? And can I be really frank with
Mhm.
you, real quick? If you caught that type of flack from anyone, they really didn't know much about their own faith.
Mm.
They were going through the motions. You know as well as I do, and you've heard me teach this numerous times. Never and I'm talking about the financial world. Never demean
Yeah.
another company.
Hmm.
Just talk about what's good of ours. Well, carry that into your faith the same way,
Yeah.
right? How if can you imagine, right? And I probably did this. I don't know because Yabby was so fine. But can you imagine me trying to get Yabby and me talking just bad mouthing her man for me to get? I ain't talking bad about it. First of all, I don't even know dude, but I know me. All right, I'm gonna tell. Yabby likes to tell this part of the story. I always leave this part of the story out. So when I met Yabby, I walked over to her desk. We was at this place, and I was at her desk, and I sat on her desk, and she had these pictures up on like a little bulletin board on her desk, right? And it was of her boyfriend at the time, right? You heard I said boyfriend, right?
Hmm.
Not her husband, which means he hadn't closed. He wasn't a closer, right? So I look at her, I say, "Who is that?" Right? We chit chat, and I say, "You know what? You need to leave him." She's like, "What? What? Why would I leave him?" And I said, "Two reasons. JC. Those are my initials." It's a true story. I'm embarrassed to tell you the story, but it's a true story. But why do I tell it to you? I didn't say nothing about him. I was pointing to me.
Yeah, you're promoting your own value.
I'm the one. I'm the one. Now she dissed me and turn me down for another 90 days. But that's not the point. I got her now. We've been married 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a true story. But getting back to the point when it came to religion or whatever the case may be, a lot of times people don't even believe what they believe.
Mm.
The
What they
reason I
say
can
they
say what I
believe.
just
Yeah.
said about my own stuff is because I've studied this. Okay, being a Christian really means we love what God loves and we hate what he hates.
Mm-hmm.
There's a simple definition, right?
Okay.
That's in being a Christian. We love what he loves, we hate what he hates. Okay, I can make that simple. You want to know what he loves? His people. You know what he hates? Sin. The bad thing is his people sinning,
Yeah.
right? So that's the tough part,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the
Loving the people and hating the sin. Yeah.
right, right. So we love the people, but we supposed to hate the sin. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So that's for Christianity. And the reason I said the way I said it earlier is because I still sin.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is I know I'm doing it. Does that make sense? And I know
Yeah.
I can't be delivered from it on my own. Some people are trying to get delivered of that stuff on their own.
Yeah.
And dirt can't clean out dirt. Bad can't release bad. I mean, it just where are you gonna go? I mean,
No, that makes sense.
it's, it's just simple, right? But how did I get there? Thinking, reading, asking thinkers
Yeah.
and other readers, right? And you got to be careful what you read, but right, you got to be able to decipher what's real and what's fake, that type of stuff.
And
Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else, but I think that you can have a legacy of thinking, right? Like if you
Mm,
come from
yeah.
and I say that because I think about my grandmother, right?
Yes.
She's 84, 83. Yeah, she's 83 years old. She'll be 84 next week. And 84 years old, I know she thinks because she talk a lot about people who don't think, right? In certain areas, right? Like she don't understand why people make certain decisions. And the truth is, they don't know why they're doing it or why they're not doing the things that for her make sense, right? She
Very
used to
true.
say to me all the time. She grew up in the era, right? Like she didn't make a whole lot of money. Did she? I'm not sure. She graduated high school, I believe. But got pregnant with my father at 19 years old, started a family, and she worked kind of retail jobs or in a restaurant business. Her family owned a restaurant here in Richmond for a number of years. She was a waitress, so she never made a whole lot of money. But I promise you, my grandmother today is much right better off than
I
most
know.
people her age because she thought about right the future, right? All right, I ain't making a whole lot right now, but she grew up in an era that was right after she was born in 1939, so 1937. I'm sorry, 1937. So it was right after the Great
The Great
Depression, right? Like that era.
Depression. Ooh,
She was in a different mindset about money, right? It was something that wasn't, it didn't come easy. So she held on to her money, but somebody brought some information to her that made sense. And she started investing her money. She didn't
made
have a lot,
sense.
but she was willing to invest what she had so that she could grow over time. And so that's thinking, right? And so I believe right that DNA gets passed on right from generation to generation. So I'm the beneficiary of that type of thought. But it takes
Wow.
somebody right being able to and we were actually on accountability call this morning. It takes just one person in your family, right? You could be the person in your family who changes the direction, who shifts the direction for your
Wow.
family simply by questioning, right? Like always sort of question how your family got to right. For me, it was like the frustration with finances. Like, why is it that I did all of what I was supposed to do? Because education was important. So like the end justified the means, right? You had to get into
Yeah.
debt, do all of that, then that's what you did. But once you got out, then you were supposed to be able to be prosperous, take care of yourself, but it still required you to learn. financial management, right? But like that wasn't taught. And I think about that as well. Like, unfortunately, generation to generation, things that could benefit the next generation aren't taught, specifically in our communities, right? Like, that's just the
Mm-hmm.
reality. Another conversation I was listening to today, it was talking about the wealth gap. I wanted to bring that into the conversation as well today, this idea of thinking. And he was sharing that a friend of his on this podcast I was listening to, he said a friend of his said that um he was talking to his white friend of his, and the white friend's net worth was around, or he and his wife combined made about $350,000 a year, and they're the brokest in their circle, right? But their money is their money, right? They ain't got to worry about somebody asking them to borrow something or handing them something, right? Like they gonna take you, right. He said that the other family members, are giving them charity at Christmas time to help, right? Whatever the case may be.
Isn't
But
that crazy?
last month for Black History Month, there was some statistic that came out that the average net worth, and the term I believe is problematic, right? Net worth, right? Like your worth is not wrapped up in how much money you have, but that
Gotcha.
aside, right? The net worth of most Black families is on average $17,000. The average
Wow.
wealth of white families is $170,000. All right, so it's a difference of like what's 100 or 10 times, right? But why is that? Why don't we ask that question? Why is that? And like you said earlier, if we ask that question, what can we do about it? Right? Like something can be done about it. But for most people, we see that disparity and our response is just to sit back. It's just the way it is. We accept it,
No,
right? We blame.
or blame.
Yep. We focus
Matter of
on.
fact, let's say it the correct way: blame, complain, and justify.
Yep.
All right, or rationalize. And I heard somebody say rationalize just means you telling rational lies. Yeah, that's what's happening,
Yeah.
right? And if you
Even
do
if,
any of those things I just talked about, we're not fixing it.
yeah.
You are not
Like,
changing it by doing any of those four I just said. You blame, complain, justify, or rationalize. We are not fixing it. There's not even a
yeah.
chance for it. And
And
we
to
could.
that point, absolutely. And to that point, because it's very small things that we could do
Very
to
small.
make that shift, right? Life insurance, right, is one thing.
Big one.
Getting your money to work for you, right? Establishing an emergency fund, right? There's principles that you can apply in your life to, right? If my grandmother at 83 years old can have a certain net worth without the education, she ain't go to
Yep.
college, she,
Yep.
right? It's possible. It just requires you to make a decision, which requires you to think. You can't just accept what everybody's feeding you, right? Society is feeding you spend now, immediate gratification, right? A friend of mine actually posted something or shared a website that she has, and it said instead of buying McDonald's, Nike, and Starbucks, invest in the companies, right? Like a small shift like that is a way that you can, right, by thinking how is it that there's, right, all right, yes, we know that there was slavery in this country, and there was a somebody shared this past Saturday, Salathia did the Mocha Money meetup, and she had a woman on there talking about generational wealth and legacy, and she shared this. It's called structural discrimination, the unequal opportunity race. And it's this quick video, and it starts from like the 1400s, and like the gun goes off, and there's a white guy, a white woman, and a black man and a black woman, and the gun goes off, and the white man and the white woman, they start the race, and the two black people are still at the start line, right? Like when the gun goes off, they can't go, and it's not until like 1965 or something like that that they can actually start the race, right? The gate comes up and they can actually start the race. But even given that, over this time, right, over the last 30, 40, we've seen people in our community become billionaires. So why
Yep.
not you? What did they do? We could study what
Millionaire within 3 years. We've seen so much, but but are you willing to think on how do you get there?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I mean, so much opportunity in our world, and it's just shocking to me how many people don't see it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it's
Yeah.
shocking to me that people in here in our country don't see it, and they rationalize. And I mean, I've been in this business now 20 years. I went over 20 years in the financial game last month, and I hate to say it, right? Especially as a black advisor, I wish I could tell you most of my clientele was black. I talked to more blacks than any other, right? I prospected more blacks than any other,
Mm-hmm.
but unfortunately, that's not the bulk of my. And it's kind of like what you were saying earlier, the skepticism. How can that be? Is right? It's not true. Like, what do I have to gain by telling you something that falls here, right?
Yeah.
But there's other people who don't look like me, and they took my advice almost immediately, right? And of course, did their due diligence, which everybody should. But just how it's played out in my 20 years. Um,
Yeah.
so it's and unfortunately, it's not even close. Like my clientele, my book of business, as my industry would call it, right? It's not even close. It's not even like they're 30% and they're 32%. No, it's not even close.
Mm.
It's really sad. And actually, I didn't realize it till about 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even notice because I want to help anybody who wants to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want the help, if you want this knowledge, all this time this guy spent reading prospectuses, sitting in a daily grind, what, just studying my craft, I'm still doing, I was doing continuing educations this weekend, right? Just not because I need the points. I got so much credits in the system. The state probably gonna send me a letter say stop, just stop doing them, right? But I it was something else I wanted to learn. I wanted to well, one thing I wanted to get brushed up on because I haven't done it in a while, and another thing I just wanted to, a situation came up with a client that it looks like I'm going to need that. I'm going to need that level of knowledge. So I
Mm-hmm.
started looking at these two courses. I didn't need to do that, right? So anybody who wants this level of knowledge that I'm putting in me, I'm willing to help them with it, right? But I can't
And the
force
thing
you to
is,
be.
you saved them 20 years,
Oh my
right?
God, they
Having
have
to
no
study it themselves.
20
That's the
years
benefit
and
in
millions of
speaking
dollars.
out. Yes.
Millions of dollars. Like now I see the value of it, like millions of dollars, like easily, especially some of the tax stuff, especially some of the estate planning stuff, millions
Mm-hmm.
of dollars. I was sitting with a client family today, husband and wife, and some of the money that we're moving around and putting in places. And one of the things I talked to them about was a trust. And
Yeah.
this is like absolutely needed. Not even up for debate, right? I'm gonna line you guys up with the right people, right? But dang, here we have knowledge, and people won't think to go get it.
Yeah.
And the
Or
reason
don't
is
want to
it's easier.
apply it. Yeah.
Let's be honest, it's easier not to think.
What's easy to do is also easy not to do, right? I think I've heard MLS say that. Yep.
Yeah,
It's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. Um, and I guess I always look at it something you were saying earlier, in terms of like my children. My children already think they know everything, right? It's just how they are at that age, right? Mama don't know everything. She was like, "Did you, when they asked you that question, did you know such and such?" Like, no, I've only been here 36 years. I ain't learned
right,
nothing.
right.
Like, I didn't know that simple fact. Um, but at this age, sharing with them experiences that I've had, not to like scare them, but to just be honest with them, like, hey, I made
Yeah,
some decisions that didn't pan out the way I wanted them to because I
that's right.
didn't think about X, Y, and Z, or I didn't ask the right questions. And
Mm-hmm.
so hopefully it helps you. Hey, you may make the same decisions, but hopefully this can deter you from making that same decision, or that can, help you avoid some of those same pitfalls. Um,
Totally.
and we've talked about it before. Instead of shielding them from, right, we got the skeletons in our closet, or the
Mm-hmm.
past experiences that we've been through, and the stuff that you went through. I know you've said this before. Wasn't about you. It wasn't for you. It was meant for
Nope.
someone else. And I'm thinking now, right? I know I've talked about this a little bit before. This idea that I need to transition, so that I can add more value in life, right? Like I know that there's more in me, and to a degree, being I'm not gonna say stuck in a job, right? Because it's a choice, right? Like you choose to be here, right? But limiting myself by just working at a job is preventing me from serving and impacting more people. I had a call
Mm.
last night with one of my clients, and I literally like did not. I, I didn't know this woman from Adam last year. She was a referral from a referral, right? So somebody that
Wow.
I grew up with that I was able to help share,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wrote me a recommendation. From that recommendation came another young lady who became a client who referred this woman. And she's like, I missed you, right? We haven't talked in a little less than a month, right? It's only been like maybe 3 weeks. She's like, I've missed you, right? Because we haven't talked in a few weeks. But she feels confident in being able to call me and talk to me. And just the different things that she did. She's an educator, and she's ready to transition out of education because she's stressed and she wants to find other ways to earn income and all these things. And like the fact that it's like I don't get that at my job, right? I don't feel that valued doing the work to maintain the company's bottom line, right? Like it just is what it is, right? Like I'm not there to, make a difference, if you will. I'm there to protect the company's bottom line. And so being in an industry, right, in finance, or being in a position where people trust you, they trust your expertise, they trust your experience, your knowledge, and feel confident coming to you. It's like you stop playing small, right? It gives me some things to think about. Stop playing small, get out of your own way, and go
Yeah.
ahead and put yourself in a better position so that you
Hallelujah.
can model, right, for your children the possibilities, show them how living out your purpose and being who you were created to be, what that actually looks like, so that they have that example, right? Because they're not gonna listen to what I say. They're gonna watch what I do. They're gonna follow what I do. And so
Absolutely.
that's constantly the things that I think about all the time. It's just like, how is what I'm doing impacting other people, not just my own children, but the other people around me. And if something that I love that Jim Rohn says, if you can do better, should you, right? If you can make more money, should you? If you can
Mm-hmm.
help more people, right? Like you should. Like why not?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that requires you to think. Right? Go back to that topic. It requires you to think to be able
Yeah.
to serve more people. And we can say what we want about business owners and wealthy people, but they create opportunities for other people. They help other people be able to take care of their families, be able to provide for their families. And so why not you? If they can do it, why not you? They don't do nothing no different than you do. Right? They put on their
Yeah.
pants the same way you do. They put on their shirt the same way you do. And so we gotta challenge ourselves to be a better version, right? I'm not gonna say the best. Something my brother brought up actually is like if there's a best you, you can't get better, right? But you can always get better, right? So we can challenge ourselves to be a better version of ourselves, and we can always be getting better and better and better. And so, hopefully, for those that have been
Absolutely.
listening tonight, we've gave you some things to think about, right? And if you fall in the 5%, hey, more power to you. Keep thinking. Right? If you fall in the 10%,
You got
you
some
may
work to
want to
do.
got some work to do. And hey, if you're in the 85%, I trust that this
I
conversation has
challenge.
given you some. So
Yeah.
say
I
again.
challenge you. I challenge you to start thinking. If you're in the 10%, I would say these are the what we call the woke people, right? And really they're just sleep deprived. Right. Right. No, I challenge you, right? And this is why I challenge you, right? I want you to ask yourself, What impact have you made in our world? What opportunities have you presented or created for someone else? Because if it's all about you, what kind of life is that?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying this to be demeaning to anyone, but I'm challenging you to think. I'm challenging you to ask yourself some questions that will create a level of thinking. Right? When was the last time you made? I had a great talk with a young lady that you know, um, but a young lady who was, even through it was a Zoom, right? And I could literally feel her energy of
Hmm.
how much effort she has poured into. Now, of course, unfortunately, she's not getting the response that she would like to get from the people she's doing this for. But to feel her energy, it just inspired,
Hmm.
right? She's making a difference. Of course, on the surface, it doesn't look like right now. And most of the time, even in our business, it doesn't look like we're
Yeah.
making a difference that moment, right? But I've been at this 20
Planting
years.
the
I
seed.
don't wonder
Yeah.
if I've made a difference anymore. That doesn't even come across my brain anymore. Am
Yeah.
I making a difference? That doesn't even it comes across my brain in other endeavors, right? In mentoring and coaching men and right. But in the financial game, that doesn't even come across my mind because I've watched families' lives change right
Yeah.
in front of me through whether it been insurance products, 529 plans, covered those savings accounts, retirement plans, whatever the case may be. So I don't wonder that anymore, right? But I am
Hmm.
challenging the people who may watch this, right? In your thinking, right? What difference are you making? Are you going mad? Are you going to make a difference? And that's my challenge to you. I want you to think, have you made a difference? When was the last time you did anything of greater value? And I'm talking about outside your house. You're supposed to be doing great stuff in your house, in your family, but I'm talking about outside your family. And especially for some people who you nothing, they owe you nothing and it brings you no value. That's my challenge.
That's good. That's
We
good.
went 2 minutes
Well,
over. Sorry, Majida.
you're good. No, I certainly appreciate your insight, this conversation, John. And, maybe,
This was
who
fun.
knows, a year from now, 10 years from now, somebody will be watching this and it'll plant the seed to get them to think. And, that tree will bloom and who knows, all right? And that's why we do this week in and week out is uh we've been the beneficiaries of people in our lives who've helped us to think about things differently and approach life a little differently. And so we just want to pass that on, pay that forward to some other people so that they too can benefit from the value that we've gotten from, other people, resources, books, courses, events, right? All of those things, or we get to share with those that are listening. So if you have gotten some value from this conversation, share it with a friend. Watch it again, watch the replay, and let us share your thoughts with us. Right? John's not going to read them, but I may. um,
Sorry. I
of
apologize.
course,
I'm sorry, but not sorry.
hey, we know you're a busy man. You got a lot going on. That's why you got
That's
a
right.
team around you. We
That's
got
right.
people that can read the comments and respond and do all that stuff. And if people want to connect with you directly, they can reach out to John C. Epting Jr. on Instagram or Facebook. Or you can take our assessment at momentum-mentors.com and we'll be able
Yep.
to get that information and reach back out to you to schedule a time to get together with you and let it help us help you move forward in your finances and make a difference. Right. I like that. Are you going mad? Right. Make a difference in
That's gonna make
your
a
life
difference.
and those in the lives of the people around you, right? Because it just takes one, right? When people see you changing and growing, then
Just
they
each
want to
one.
do it, right? I'm evidence of that, right? Like my whole family tree is now changing as a result of one person making a decision that like our family too can, um, break that people call generational curse. We can change that outcome for our family simply by getting new information and applying it. So I thank you. I appreciate you. I sincerely thank you for doing this with us every week and being who you are. Right? I know you said you've been in this for 20 years, and that's valuable to me because that's 20 years of thinking I ain't got to do. Right? I can just say, hey, John. I can go to somebody, right? Like that's the value in reading books, right? They save you time, right? And I
That
can just go to
absolutely,
John, right? Hey,
absolutely.
look, I've only
Well, I
been in this
appreciate
game
you.
about 10 years, so
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship and actually family ship, if that's a thing.
hey,
We're so
good
far
word
back, we're so far past friends. But our family ship, the conversations I get to have with your mother, the meeting I got to have with your brother, love the fact that your dad told you to think for yourself all those years ago. I admire him for that because it
now.
takes a lot of courage for a father to tell his child that.
Mm,
And I just appreciate who you are. You've always been a self development person, and you've always wanted to grow. And it's fun to watch. It's been an honor to watch. Actually, it's been absolutely
thank you.
remarkable. So this is fun. This has been fun. It's I think I like the idea that you don't tell me what we're going to talk about when we get on here. So that way we can just go straight from our cup and from the heart for real. And
Yeah,
I'm hoping a lot of people get value out of it. My life is really just about serving other people. At this point, I believe the Lord is blessing me through my service. So um,
absolutely.
great night.
Well,
Look forward to it
y'all
next
have a
week.
great night. Yes, sir. Y'all have a great night.